It may only be March, but it doesn't mean that we can't talk about transfers. We're going to have a look at our dream summer window, which means plenty of names, plenty of exciting transfer rumours to discuss, and what we might see as potentially a perfect window for the Gunners. Let's jump into today's Let's Talk Arsenal show. Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys for another episode of what is our Let's Talk Arsenal series, a show in which I'm joined by a brilliant guest to talk about our beloved club, and I'm very happy to be joined today by Mr. DG. Deluded Gooner, how you doing, mate? You good, you well?
Oh, Tom, man, you're far too kind. Appreciative, man. Appreciative to be on the platform. Appreciative of the content you make, all the things you do for me behind the scenes. So when I got the call up, it's only right to be here, man. Thanks for having me, man. Hopefully we have
we're
a
going to end
great
the
chat.
show there. It can only go downhill, to be honest, after that reply. So yeah, no, absolute pleasure. DG, if you're not aware, listeners, you can find his channel by clicking the link in today's video title. Of course, one of the most prolific creators of content on the platform. So certainly make sure you subscribe if you're not already, and help him on his way to 60k. Both of us, in fact, are looking at trying to close in on 60k. So please do subscribe to both channels if you haven't done
Appreciate
so
that,
already. As I mentioned, we're going to be looking at what we describe as our dream summer window. So we're going to be running through a different number of positions in the squad and thinking about who for us would be our dream option. We may not even have one. It may be that we don't actually think of who we might want for that position, and we may have to leave it up to a few positions if we've got some honourable mentions, if you like. But we're going to start with, I think, probably what is the headline act for most people and run back from there, which is the centre forward position. Firstly, is centre forward for you kind of the main area that you want to see addressed in the summer?
I think it's a priority, Tom. I think, Mikel Arteta once said we need to be a team that can score 100 goals if we want to obviously win Premier League titles and things of that ilk. Over the last 2 seasons, without necessarily having a prolific striker, goals are spread all over the side. But I do think we need a striker. I do think when you look back last year, it looked like there was a lot of psychological issues in front of goal, not necessarily personnel. But as you know yourself, a couple more goals in our team, it turns some draws into victories, it turns some defeats into draws. Ultimately, it's more points on the board. So I do think the striker should be the priority. But for me, it's the central midfield, man. It's that left 8. I just feel if we could get another one, we'll be dreaming, man. We really would be dreaming, man. So it'd be midfield for me. But I think they're of equal priority, bro.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm also leaning towards that midfield. I'm not sure whether or not it's like the 6 or the 8, because it's about where you kind of see, I guess, Declan Rice's future. I think that he's got the potential to be a stunningly good box-to-box midfielder for us, but equally, we know he can be a world-class 6. So if anything, that kind of opens up, doesn't it, the option to go for either position, depending on what options, I guess, are available.
Facts. And you're right in that regards, man. And I must admit, even like where you just said, the 6 example you gave, and I've obviously mentioned an 8, as much as I feel you need a player that can probably do both roles or a specialist, I do wonder in particular how Declan Rice has been used. And I guess to a degree, Thomas Partey's time at Arsenal, is it a thing where we need a midfielder that could do a bit of both rather than getting hung up on a 6 or an 8? I'm not sure.
Yeah, no, and I think that, as I say, I think it opens up avenues in both areas. Depending upon what profiles present themselves in the summer, we can make decisions and build the squad kind of malleable, if that's the word. Is that the right word? In a malleable way. That's the word I want to use, yeah. So, centre forward then. There's a lot of names. It's arguably the position where there's the most number of players, maybe the wide area, but I think centre forward is probably the highest number of names that are being talked about. But who for you is standing out at the moment as your key man?
I mean, at the start you said dream, and if we're allowed to dream and dream,
we're gonna dream, mate.
Yeah, it'd be Kylian Mbappe, wouldn't it? I know he plays on the left-hand side, but it'd be him, wouldn't it? But I'm not sure, man. I kind of changed my opinions. I'm not. There's strikers I want more than the others, but I'm not really 100% convinced. I think Gyökeres looks good. I've done a video on him. The more I do my research, I like him. I think there's a lot of qualities he could bring to the team. I'm a big fan of Benjamin Sesko, and I wouldn't be against Isak. Now, whether we're able to prize him away from Newcastle, bro, is another thing. But they'd be up there for me, really and truly, man, if I had to answer your question, man.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. I think they're probably my top 3. I'm looking at their FBref profiles at the moment. You look at Gyökeres this season, 50 goal contributions.
Ridiculous.
stunning amount of goals. I mean, yes, he's playing for Sporting, who are top of the Portuguese league, but you can only beat what's in front of you. And I think he's already gone from the Championship, which I'd look at as a very competitive league, very difficult league to get out of, different league to score plenty of goals in, one that Ivan Toney, Ollie Watkins have scored plenty of goals, and yet they're lauded for their, forays into the Premier League. And I think that you have to look at that step up, that he's gone for the Championship, scored 20 plus goals there. He's moved to Portugal, and it's not a case of like he's had to adapt or anything like that. He's gone straight in, and 50 goal contributions in his first season is unreal. 94th percentile for non-penalty goals. But not only that, he's in the 98th percentile for assists in terms of other strikers as well. His take-ons are excellent. 98th percentile for them touched in the attacking penalty area. 99. Progressive passes recovered. 99. Progressive carries. 99.
Are you his agent? You're selling him well, man.
I could be his agent, the way I've talked about him these last few weeks or so. Sesko, you mentioned as well, is an interesting one because he's kind of gradually had to break into that Leipzig team.
Very raw.
Season. He didn't start the season by getting too many minutes, but recently he's starting to get more time on the field. What is it about him that's kind of standing out for you?
I mean, I just think he's a sort of kind of blank canvas, rough diamond, better yet, that Mikel Arteta would love. And I just feel, well, if we talk about the Gyökereses, the Tonys, the Watkins, the Isaks, they're all coming with a hefty price tag. Now, granted, Arsenal have money. If we want to get to that next level, we probably have to spend money. But if the budget has to be spread over a number of positions, don't keep me on this, but I'm sure his release clause is like something to 40, 50, so that could be great. I think his age profile is great. I think he could, obviously we want a striker who's going to start and play week in, week out and all that stuff, but he could present a plan B. And I just think he's at that age where he's very impressionable. And as you've seen with Mikel Arteta, there's a lot to love. As you said there as well, he kind of struggled to break into his current team early in the season, so he's not all the way there yet, but I just like the way he works the channels. I like the way he's a hold-up man. I like the way he acts as a focal point. As you know yourself, is as much as we talk about goals in a Mikel Arteta system, it's the other bits and pieces. And I think he does a bit of everything. Now, he's very raw. Is he necessarily going to sign for us and get those 20 league goals off the back that I would love to see from a striker? Probably not. But it's just, I just think he's perfect for Arsenal. And I just think he's specifically perfect for Mikel Arteta. You've seen what he's been doing with our young players. I think he'd love him, man. Honestly.
Yeah, look, I think at 20 years of age, he falls into that bracket of if you can't necessarily see the marquee 25 to 27-year-old centre forward that's going to come in and be ready, of all the younger options that could develop into a player that might be there one day, he does look like he's in that category for sure. I think the other young player is Santiago Jimenez as well at Feyenoord at the moment. He's also getting a lot of attention. I think he's 21, 22 as well. So yeah, those two do look to be the key ones. You mentioned Ivan Toney there. He's obviously a player that a lot of people have talked about, but I think for most has probably faded somewhat in their lists and ranking of strikers. I did a show yesterday with Harry Symeou ranking all of our players we've been linked to, and we've both put him in the wouldn't kind of even go there situation now. So where do you feel about Toney and why he's fallen off in people's minds?
I mean, it's difficult because obviously I'm not a fly in the wall at the Emirates. I don't know him as a person, but I don't like to go off, how you portray yourself as in the media because you don't know the person. But I just feel the way he kind of carries himself, I can't imagine Mikel Arteta or Arsenal be keen on that. With the greatest of respect to Brentford, maybe it's because, he's clearly made clear to anyone that will listen that he wants out. I just think it's more the character. And I just feel he's a player that not only Arsenal, but anyone who wants a striker, they might try and go for all the names you said or an Osimhen or whatever. And for whatever reason, if that doesn't work out, they might circle back for Ivan Toney. It's like Ivan Toney wants to move more than a team necessarily wants him. But I do think he would be a good match for Arsenal. I do think with Ivan Toney, there isn't an in-between when discussing him. I think some people behave like he's the Messiah, and I don't quite think that. Some people, whether it's the English tax or he's at Brentford or whatever, kind of underwhelm him, where I think it's in the middle. I think he would add something, but he wouldn't be my first choice. But I do like the lad.
Yeah, I think there was certainly an element of, I feel as though before Arsenal were maybe looking at him because they wanted a player that could come in and make an impact immediately, because there was a few question marks about our goal scoring, especially at the start of this season. Whereas you look at 2024, Arsenal can't stop scoring. We're putting 5 and 6 past teams like it's nothing. And we're doing that with Havertz, and we're doing that with Jesus, and we're doing that even, Trossard has been involved at centre forward, and we've scored 6 at West Ham, for instance. So I think they want to try and really be conscious about if we go for the big striker, it has to be absolutely the right one for the next,
Yep.
3, 4, 5, 6 years, and whatever they want to move to. And I don't think necessarily Tony falls into that long-term category anymore that maybe they've shifted towards.
Facts.
So yeah, let us know in the comment section who your dream striker is. Of course, I see plenty of people in the chat box having their own thoughts. Winning Way says Gyökeres doesn't stay in one place. You can find him on the right, on the left, being highly effective, carrying the ball into the box by himself and clinically finishing as well. He's also very good with his link-up play. Geeks of Muckleby says Victor Gyökeres and Jimenez and Feyenoord, and then they promote Vieira. I mean, what do you make of Vieira? Because he's been impressing since he's gone on loan to Sturm Graz. I think it's 8 goals in 11 games or something like that.
I mean, he's done very well, man. And it's that age-old thing in that they typically say your first loan isn't necessarily going to be your best loan. And he's doing well. He's obviously, forgive me, my geography isn't the best, but he's over there in Austria.
Yep.
He's been in Scotland. He's doing his thing. Me personally, nobody more than me would be happy to see people progress through Haaland. I just think at the age he's at, he's doing what needs to be done. I'm not saying he's necessarily going to be sold or a decision is going to be made on him. I just wonder if you're Arsenal Football Club, you might look at him and Charlie Patino and want them to progress to the first team. But you might just say, do you know what, we can make a handsome profit on him. And that might be the thing. And being a young player, being exposed to football at a regular basis at that level, it's infectious. Obviously if he signs for Arsenal, re-signs for Arsenal, it will be very difficult for him to break through, especially if we bring another striker. Because as you said there, you've got Havertz, you've got Trossard, Eddie Nketiah may or may not be here, but he's there. Jesus, I'm not too sure if he'll make the grade. And even that, will people be fair to him? Because it's big boots to fill. We're going to need serious goals. Now, are you ever ready for anything that changes your life in life? I'm not sure, but he's doing what he needs to do, man. And if he progresses to the first team or if he's sold for a profit, that's a success in itself for what our youth recruitment does, really. So yeah, shout out to him, man, pushing him all the way.
Indeed. I think 21 years of age. Ironically, a year older than Benjamin Sesko, which kind of puts into context how highly he's rated at the moment. Yeah. Let's move to the wide areas then. Now, I'll kick these things off by saying that if we were doing this, say, 3 months ago, I think Pedro Neto would have been my number one pick. And I'm typically not one that likes to hang on injury records too much, because I look at Thomas Partey arrive with no injuries at all, and then obviously he suffered what he suffered. So I kind of look at injuries as a bit of a secondary factor these days, because whether they join with a history of injuries or not, who knows what's going to happen. And I kind of look at quality first. But I have to admit that this most recent injury and the ones that he suffered in the last 2 years has really dissuaded me from Pedro Neto. But where do you stand with your dream wing option?
It's a difficult one, because I don't feel that in this day and age there's a great amount of wide men. I think we're going to have to kind of get a raw and blank canvas. I like the look of Nico Williams. I think people are probably doing too much and overrating slightly, but I like the look of him. I can't remember his name. Is it PSV's Bakayoko? He did quite well. Yeah. I like the look of him, and he's drawing a lot of interest. I haven't really been paying attention this season, but I've always been fond of Yeremy Pino. But as you said there, man, I would have loved Pedro Neto. And I'm like yourself, Tom, in that I'm not one to harp on about injuries, but it's like every week it seems like Pedro Neto's picked up another knock. And I hate to be that guy, but as Arsenal fans, we know there's a bit of tax here. We're just never going to see him really and truly. So I would say Nico Williams for me, man. Again, going back to what I said earlier, I just think he's a blank canvas and very impressionable for Arteta to work with.
Yeah, I see a lot of people in the chat. Nico Williams is coming up. Marley says there. Tony says there. The one that I've gone for is, I think I spotted his name coming up. Yeah, Mike says Xavi Simons. RB Leipzig on loan at the moment from PSG. If we're talking about dream scenarios, got another guy who's 20 years of age. It's amazing what RB Leipzig can do with 20-year-olds in their team.
It's crazy, isn't it?
It's mad to think that this is someone with 17 assists, 11 goals this season at 20 years of age. Stunningly good. Has done it really well in the Eredivisie, has transitioned to the Bundesliga and stepped things up. I imagine PSG will be looking to do everything they can to keep him, especially with Mbappe leaving in the summer as well. But I just feel it's like if Arsenal are going to go out and try and sign somebody, that's someone who can cover on the right, he can cover on the left. I think he could compete.
Play in midfield as well.
Absolutely. He plays in that attacking midfield role. He can. You could play him instead of Ødegaard if you wanted to rest him and rotate him for a game. He's different style. Even though he's got those 17 assists, he's not one you necessarily associate with kind of your vision and your cutting passes. He's more one you associate with driving penetrative runs into the box, then the cutbacks and the little lays off and stuff. Yeah. So he's one as well. I'm just seeing if there's any others. Elise and Eze, says Jonathan. Did the Crystal Palace pair appeal to you?
Oh, I like them. I really do like them. I really do. But I just feel the price tag, I don't feel currently matches it. I'm very fond of Eze. I wasn't always necessarily convinced on him, but I like him a lot. Elise, again, it goes back to the Pedro Neto thing about injuries. I see someone in your chat has said Diaz at Real Madrid. He could be decent, but I just feel, well, I'm not a journalist, but based on the price tags, I just can't see that happening. But Diaz is a shout, and I think he's bang on the money with that comment. You know, Diaz would be top quality, really. And he's played in
Yeah,
England before. So yeah,
indeed.
bring him in, man. There's a lot of great names, man. You could
Yeah,
go for
Rafael
Leao.
Leao's coming up. Yeah,
If
indeed. I
it's
mean, that
dreaming, yeah.
if you're dreaming, and it would be dreaming because you'd have to pay a hell of a price to somehow snap him away from
Exactly.
Milan. Brahim Diaz is one of those where I look at and think, he's more naturally a central player. I think more than maybe I know he
Yeah.
can play in those wide areas. Do you think that Arsenal will look at that attacking midfield position? Because obviously Smith Rowe's future is very uncertain. Vieira, we haven't necessarily seen enough to suggest that maybe he's guaranteed a place. And you might see Odegaard as a bit of a standout with not too much depth, which really competes or provides enough quality depth. You look at City, you've got De Bruyne and Silva and Grealish and Foden, and to an extent, Alvarez can even play slightly deeper if you wanted him to. But it's a glut of amazing players. They've got Liverpool. You look at all of their attacking options that they can keep happy. I know they've got injury issues, of course, but Nunez and Diaz and Jota when he's fit, and Elliott can play there as well. Gakpo, of course. So is there an argument maybe that a central player, I see in the chat box, some people are saying Florian Wirtz and Musiala, who, two German players of amazing talent, both centrally inclined, even though Musiala can play in a wide area too.
I mean, I'm a Wenger baby, so I come from the school of where you couldn't pay Arsene Wenger to not put tens in the team where you had Ramsey and Wilshere playing out wide. So I'll say bring them all in if you can. That's an interesting point you've risen, and one I haven't necessarily considered. And I have to say, it wouldn't necessarily be a priority. I'd prefer an 8, but you could make the case of Arsenal kind of moving into that scenario of having players that are multifunctional. Again, Fabio Vieira hasn't really set the world alight, but he could play there. God knows what's going to happen with Smith Rowe. I'm not really for it, but Kai Havertz could play there. Maybe Odegaard goes into the 8. So I guess it's an avenue to consider. I just wonder, you never know what Mikel Arteta is thinking, because people wouldn't have thought Raya would come in. But yeah, I think we need other areas. But then it goes back to what you said, the great point you made about Diaz. Diaz could cover out wide and also play in the 10. So yeah, it could be an area, man. You've made a great argument, man. Really.
Yeah, it's there's some. Where do you feel about Vieira? Because he's one of those players that has never been able to establish himself. I think he had a good start to this season. In fact, there was a couple of really good cameos. I think he got that assist against Fulham for Eddie Nketiah. And it seemed like, okay, he's turning up, he's contributing. There's some, and I remember the game against Brentford where he first replaced Odegaard last season as well. We won that their place 3-0, and he scored that brilliant goal. And I think he had a really good game overall besides the goal too. What is it that he has to do for you to kind of convince the majority, if you like?
I think it's like you said there, like when somebody says the name Fabio Vieira, to me, Tom, it's stop-start. You go back to August. Eddie Nketiah did well in August as well, but he plays really well. He gets sub appearances, he takes his chances, he earns a start like in the North London derby. And I know it's harsh to just not write someone off, but judge them on that. But he doesn't always grab it with both hands. And I think it goes under the radar, but he picks up a lot of injuries, man. And that just keeps this will going, that it's just stop-start. And the reality is, I've said it before with Fabio Vieira, for me, Tom, I think he's joined Arsenal at the best time, but also the worst time. The best time because Arteta is moving us forward. The worst time is you joined with Odegaard in the 10, who's a key player. Granit Xhaka in the 8. You do play out wide, but you're not a Foden, a Cole Palmer, Bernardo Silva kind of wide attacker. You're not really a right winger, so you're not really going to see the best there. This season, we've seen Kai Havertz play there. Obviously, Jorginho's coming to the side. A fit Thomas Partey with Declan Rice changes the dynamic. So I just think it's quite harsh, but the areas you occupy, other players are doing the business, and you've just got to be patient. I feel in games he could assert himself a bit more, maybe be a bit more physically robust. But I like him a lot, man. As I said, I've come up with Arsene Wenger. You show me a technical player, I'm in love. I just feel that he just needs to maybe, I don't like to say bulk up, but maybe become a bit more robust and just play with a swagger, because he's a good player. I think he's got one of the best final balls in the team, and he's got a great relationship with Martinelli. He's a quality player, but I don't think his price tag currently has been justified. So that's all I could say, man. Right now, he's just a squad player on the peripheral things.
Indeed. And the last player I kind of want to mention that's already at the club that could have a future in an attacking midfield role is a 16-year-old in Ethan Nuneri. You know, he's been an excellent player for the youth sides, keeps scoring fantastic goals as well. The technical ability of this kid is unbelievable. You know, he'll sign his professional contract this month. I don't know if it's actually tomorrow. I think I saw
Probably is. He
someone
turns
saying
18 tomorrow, I think.
yeah, so when he turns of the age, he will be able to sign that pro contract. And do you see him being kind of that next Saka Smith Rowe type player that can break in? You know, Saka and Smith Rowe were making pretty regular inroads into the senior team at 17. So is this an important year for him, or do you think there will be patience shown?
I will always advocate for patience with young players, and I'd always be
Mm.
wary of comparing people to Saka and things of that ilk. It's hard not to get excited by Ethan. For me, the temperament, the technical level, as you said, you know, he's scoring a lot of goals. You can see the way that, what was it, against West Ham, how his senior players were clamoring for him to come on, and Odegaard was just trying to give him a touch of the football at any given occasion. I do think initially he'll probably play out wide at some occasion, but the man himself has said he's a 10 or an 8. Anything can happen in life, innit? But I just feel the way we're moving, trying to fight for Premier League titles and things, we've kind of got to take the Phil Foden approach and that extreme patience. You'll get your game time. Like people to this day say even Foden doesn't play enough. But I actually think Pep Guardiola has done quite well with Phil Foden. So I would say we need to tread carefully. You know, there's going to be many setbacks. And I just feel people build up these young players to a level that at that moment in time, they're not. When they show the roadblocks and the growing pains, they're the first to turn on them. But it's hard not to be excited about him, man. He's everything you want to see in an Arsenal footballer, man. And we've done really well to keep hold of him because there was interest from other clubs. Quality
Yeah,
player, man.
lots. That pro contract, from my understanding, apparently is a bit of a record breaker. Supposedly, Arsenal will be paying quite a considerable amount
Shows
to.
your ambition.
Indeed, and they're determined to keep him, which is great. I don't think it was necessarily predicated on that side of things, on the money side of things. I think he's always shown that willingness to want to stay at Arsenal. He's very much talked about being an Arsenal guy, you know, and coming through the academy here, and he's wanted to stay here. But you know, you want to get the best deal for yourself. You know your value. You got to fight for
Naturally.
that. So I respect it. Yeah, Saim says he turns 17 tomorrow. So there you go. Nev says it's his birthday tomorrow, as is mine. 44, though, a little bit different. It's also Ronaldinho's birthday, who is also 44. So there you
Happy
go.
birthdays all round, man.
Indeed. So that deeper, we'll call it a deeper midfield position, be it the 8 or the 6, because I think we're both kind of maybe on slightly different pathways about where we see that. But again, I think it again depends upon the profile. Who's standing out for you in that central midfield area?
I mean, it's the man of the moment. I do feel this individual slightly being overrated by Arsenal fans by no fault of his own, but it'd have to be Zubimendi. I know he's not an 8, but I would love Zubimendi. I think he's an Arsenal midfielder. I know we probably won't sign him, but I do like Douglas Luiz. I just feel with the way he takes set pieces, Arteta would love it. We've been scoring a lot of goals from set pieces. He's Premier League proven, and he can play as an 8 or a 6. So that would be it for me, man, really. But there's a lot of names, man. There's probably some that I'm missing. You know, I would even somebody like Kudus, for example, who can play out wide, players at 10, players at 8. Well, you never know with West Ham. Maybe they could become our feeder club. But someone of that ilk would be lovely, man.
Yeah, I imagine seeing Goodis and Odegaard playing as dual 8s, you know, for
Imagine.
Declan Rice. That would be quite the threat that Arsenal would be carrying. I mean, Peter says you're Anana. Amadou Anana from Everton. His name's come up. I'm not necessarily sure about the technical quality of him if he's yet got it. The guy that I do like the most, and I'd like Zubimendi a lot. I think he's kind of a younger Jorginho-esque rather
Yeah,
than kind of a Rice-esque, if you like. I think he's more of your kind of your orchestrator, your conductor from deep, you know, and I think he'd be great. I think you're spot on about the way in which he's very much an Arsenal type, Arteta type player for that position, and combining him with Declan Rice would be very, very interesting indeed to see how he develops. I think people have watched him in the Champions League and seen him play against PSG, and they weren't necessarily too impressed by those performances. But I think it's difficult to look at just 2 displays in the Champions League and think, well, now I know what the guy's like. I think that he's been a player that's obviously on Arsenal's radar and has been for quite some time. And if they rate him, it's because they believe that he's got the minerals to be able to make it. And they believe also he's got the profile that would suit the coaching and the system that Arteta implements. The other player I like, who I kind of fell in love with a bit when I was at the Emirates Cup this season and watched him, and in some ways, it was mainly because of Arsene Wenger as well after the game. The only ever conversation I've had with Arsene Wenger was after the Emirates Cup this season. Came
I'm
down the
jealous,
lift
man.
as we're in the mix zone, and he just said, Yusuf Fafana, goodness me. Like,
All
he was like, you see that Fafana kid? And we were like, Yeah, special. And he had
Baller.
an unbelievable. I know he's a friendly and everything, and that, but yeah, he was utterly everywhere for a friendly. Like, it was all about the place. He scored a goal. He was back tackling. He was defending going forwards, and I've just kept a little bit of my eye on him over the course of this season for Monaco, and he still continues to stand out for them. He's continuously called up for the French international side, which is a midfielder. When you're going up against some of the French midfielders that are around at the moment,
Yep.
it's no slight when you get called up amongst the likes of Tchouaméni and Camavinga, etc. So, it's impressive to see what he is doing, and I think that maybe he's still someone that could come up on the radar, but has not necessarily been mentioned at the
Bring
moment.
him.
The other player is Joshua Kimmich as well, who's been talked about recently. He can play DM, can play at right back, played majority of his time in midfield, but has played over 100 games, of course, at right back as well. So I say such a split when I talk about him. I wrote a piece about him that went out this morning, and I kind of asked people what are your thoughts about a deal on Kimmich, and it was either brilliant player, world class, elite, get him in, or 29, too old, no thank you. So where do you kind of sit on these two sides of the fence?
I mean, 29, to say someone's old at 29 is quite crazy.
I am 29 for the
yes,
record.
I'm turning 29 in April, so it's crazy. It's crazy, like, especially when his game, I know, the way football is advancing, it does tend towards younger players, but his game isn't reliant on pace or any sort of physical attribute. It's manipulation of space.
Yeah.
It's in his intelligence and his technical quality. I don't think he's going to lose that at 29 suddenly, or when he turns 30, he's going to fall off a cliff. I'd love him at the carpet, man. I do think it would be a bit like if we signed Frankie de Jong, in that you're good players, we expect you to score a million goals, win us the Premier League, win the Tour de France and do everything by yourself, essentially. But I'm having Kimmich, man. He's got a wealth of experience. As you said, I mean, it's going to be easier said than done taking Benjamin White's place, but you're adaptable, you're versatile, you're experienced. You can help us in the Champions League, where although we went through against Porto, I think fans would agree we did show at times that it's kind of uncharted waters for us. I'm having Kimmich. I'm not sure for wages and transfer fees, and I'm not even sure how legit the rumors are, because he's been linked with a lot of moves, and he's got from the summer, he'll have a year left on his deal, and I don't know who the next Bayern Munich manager is going to be, but I'm definitely having Kimmich if we can, man. Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we'd be mad to turn a player of that
crazy
level of quality down. And also, I think there's something to be said about, I don't think there's necessarily a standout midfielder option at the moment for Arsenal. I mean, Zubimendi is still going to come with an element of risk, because you don't know how he's going to do. And I think, whereas Declan Rice, you looked at that and you went, that's just a home run. You get that deal done, you get it in, and he's gonna succeed for you. Whereas if you can't necessarily see that, I think a 29-year-old with 1 year left on his contract, if you can get him for a decent figure, just to tie you over in that position with some real quality for 2-3 seasons, if it takes that, it's a great option for Arsenal. I mean, look at the success of Jorginho, and a player like that. So I don't think we should be too snooty about a player like Kimmich. Into the defence, is it an area that you think we do need to strengthen in?
Yep, 100%. And I only say that because, again, you're a journalist, so you know more than me. Benjamin White is well known. He does carry knocks, and he puts his body on the line, and in a bit of a naive way, but in a nice way, he kind of conceals injuries to play. I would like to see his legs rested. I do think there's a correlation. I know our whole team got better after Dubai, but you got a bit of a break, and he's back to his best. Obviously, Gabriel and Saliba, you'd like to see them rested, and God forbid, but we all saw last season, Saliba's not there. We're not the same. God forbid if that happened to Gabriel. Big fan of what Kyrgios's doing, but I think we need another defensive body. Up until recent, our only fit defender on the bench was Cedric, and he's not going to be there. So yeah, I think we need one. I think I don't have a player in mind, but my first option would be somebody that is a versatile kind of guy, like of the Timber and the Tomiyasu ilk, who can be a bit of a Swiss Army knife and play all across the back four. I do think we need a defender, and I know people are not really fond of Zinchenko necessarily, but him and Tomiyasu do pick up a lot of knocks. Now, I'm being unfair to Timber because it's a big injury that no one could have seen happen, but it is a miracle how from August to now we've been dealing with all these injuries and we've been getting away with it. So I think we need another defensive body, man. I really do. I think we really do. 100%.
Yeah. No, I think we have 7, at the moment. You've got White, Tomiyasu, Timber, Saliba, Gabby, Zinni, and Kivior. And I think 8 is the number. That's 2 across each of the 4 back 4 positions. You could argue Kimmich if you bring him in, he covers maybe one of those slots. You mentioned
Rice
Ben
as well.
White, of
And
course.
Arteta said we would have had to do that once upon a time.
Hey, Thomas Partey's a right back. You got to remember that as well.
Yeah, you're right.
So he's there to cover. Just Jai says, "Give me Diamande, a Sporting Lisbon
Good player.
defender." Tony says the Ajax guy, which is obviously Yoral Hato, 17-year-old, very exciting player. Has signed a new deal. Is about to sign a new deal, so that might make it tricky to bring him in. But again, he's a very good player. Sean says, "Give Cedric a new contract." I think he might be joking though. Do let us know if you are. I guess the last position is one that I'm not going to kind of ask for names because I think it's nearly impossible. But Aaron Ramsdale is likely to move on in the summer with David Raya coming in. I think it's not exactly a shock to hear that. But I kind of want to ask you the question about what avenue you want to see us go down with that position, because obviously when we went, I suppose you can look at Raya as a 27-year-old when he joined, a relatively still young keeper, because 27 for a keeper still relatively young, as the cliche goes. And we've now got two players that look to compete with each other. When we obviously had Ramsdale in, Leno, I think, was on the slightly older. I think he'd hit 30 by the time that he left. Would you want to see Arsenal go down the route of bringing in someone who's kind of a young understudy to Raya? Or would you like us to go down the route of bringing in like the Stefan Ortega type that City did when they had Edison, and bringing the older figure with like accomplished abilities, good distributor of the ball, quite unknown to be fair. So they got him in pretty comfortably to be a number 2. So what pathway are you with that one?
I mean, the way you pull it with a young understudy in turn with our young team and our young manager, I would be inclined for that. But I just feel we probably need to go the other side of the clock, find someone that, I don't want to be ageist, but 29, 30, 32, whatever have you sort of thing. Someone that is a bit like Jorginho in that, take nothing away from Jorginho, but he's been around the block. He's very experienced. He knows his role. He knows he's not going to play week in, week out, but he's still good enough to push existing players. And you mentioned Ortega is fantastic, because there's been times, arguably, with Edison's form, he has come in or could have come in, and even some City fans were clamoring. I know it's easier said than done finding a backup keeper, but you kind of want to find someone that is confident enough if Raya is going to be absent, but someone that's able to keep pushing Raya so that if he ever feels anything close to complacency, his place could be gone. I think that's the one benefit I would say this season with Ramsdale and Raya, in that there's no margin for error. Every training session is like a cup final. Any of you slip off, you might not be involved. So I think you hit the nail on the head. I would prefer somewhat of an Ortega type, a bit more of a cooler, calm, collected and experienced head. So I would say that, to be fair, Tom.
Yeah, no, I'm inclined to agree. I think it's just about finding, as we said, the right one and getting that one in. So yeah, I think there could be a lot of player sales in the summer that gives us a bit of freedom to spend. So if you can save a bit of money on the replacement for Ramsdale, it gives you more scope to spend elsewhere. I'm going to be really mean at the end of this show, and we're going to try and come up with we're going to nail ourselves to a name, if you like. So we'll go through the selection of positions. So your dream striker pick, DG.
Okay, now we got to get into names. Oh, You know what? Sesko. I want to say Gyökeres, but Sesko.
Sesko. I will go for and bring Gyökeres' name into it. So we'll go. I don't know why mine's much smaller. I don't know if that says something about us. But there you go. Gyökeres and Sesko are picked there. Winger.
Yeremy Pino.
Go for Pino. Interesting. I'm going to go for Simmons. You can change it if you want.
No. You know what? We'll keep it. We'll keep it.
Stick with it. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Let's go for the midfielder. We won't do it. I don't think we thought we needed necessarily that dream attacking midfielder, but we'll go for just a midfielder that you could pick.
Zubimendi. I'll be doing him a disservice not mentioning his name, man.
Fair enough. We'll go for Zubimendi. I'm going to go for... I've stuck with him. I'm going to have to stay with him. Fofana. And a defender, lastly.
Defender, that's difficult, man.
Tough, isn't it? Tough one.
Yeah, it is. You know what? One that we're probably not going to get, but the more I do my research, I like him. It's the young Hato. Like, even if we have to do the Saliba thing and just put the money down, you stay at Ajax for a year and we keep it moving, man.
Yeah, no, absolutely fair. I think for me, it would be between Hato and Diamande, which the two have been brought up.
Even him, that's a shout.
In the chat box. So, yeah, maybe I'll throw down Diamande as my option.
Your list,
so there you
go.
And I think we both agreed we'd rather have kind of the older goalkeeper route as well. So there you go. There's our some of our dream summers. Let us know in the comment section what your dream Arsenal summer would look like. I mean, on a scale of 1 to 10, how accurate do you think we've been with reality?
Well, you're probably a lot more closer than mine. For you, I'll give you a 7. For me, probably a 4, to be honest.
It's going to be a big one. And of course, you can be sure
Amen.
that both myself and DG will be producing plenty of content on our respective
You
channels
know it.
talking about it. Speaking of which, please make sure you give a shout out to yourself, DG. You've been fantastic. Tell people they can find you.
Oh, you're far too kind, Tom, man. Yeah, literally, if you just click the title, as Tom said, it's tagged. So you just got to hit that, or just type in Deluded Gooner on YouTube or Twitter, and I'm sure I'll come up somewhere, man. So yeah, that's where you can find me if you like what I have to say. Or don't.
Got any fun stuff planned coming up, schedule-wise?
I think at 7 p.m. today, I kind of had a bit of fun and tried to be Mikel Arteta and try and guess who are the players that he'll sell in the summer. So that should come out on my channel at 7. So you can have a butcher.
A wig involved, a Lego head wig. I think
you know what? Maybe you should be creative director. Maybe I should have done that, but no, not at this moment, man.
Jeez, perfect hair that man has. But yeah, please make sure you go and check out DG's channel. He's absolutely fantastic and all right. Polite and top lad as well to speak with. Always a pleasure to join you, mate, on yours. I'm sure I'll be there at some point in the near future, and we'll link up again, of course, maybe in the summer, and we'll see if our minds have changed on any of our picks. They probably will have, most notably. Thank you to you, the listeners, for tuning in. It is very much appreciated. I'll, of course, be back with you guys tomorrow morning, bright and early, as per at 8 a.m. And then our next evening show tomorrow at 6 o'clock is actually a friend of both of our channels as well. It's Alex from The Different Knock. He's going to be coming on for a chat. Top man as well. So you've been really spoiled this week. So make sure, as I say, you drop a like, subscribe, and all that lovely YouTube-y stuff. We'll see you then. Have a fantastic day. Stay safe, stay well, happy and respectful. And as always, up the Arsenal.
Peace.